Welcome to Prolific Mind Podcast. I am your host, Anquinette Irvin. This podcast is geared towards promoting mental wellness and personal development. Thanks for tuning in. You can support the podcast by leaving an Apple review. And this podcast is also located on YouTube. So please follow my channel. It's Prolific Mind. And today I wanted to discuss the movie Katrina Babies. If you know me, you know I love New Orleans, baby. I went there, I think 2016 or 2017. And the first time I went and I came back to Tallahassee, because that's when I was in college, I was on a natural high. I can't describe this feeling. The city was so amazing because I feel that it is rich with culture, with the food, the different dances that they do in New Orleans. I just love New Orleans. I love their accent. I love everything about it. And I thought of the Katrina Babies when I was in graduate school prior to me going to New Orleans. And how I knew about New Orleans because of Toya Johnson. And at the time, she was Toya Carter and then Toya Wright. And she had this TV show, and I love Toya's accent. I love her as a person, and she was from New Orleans. So I just love everything about New Orleans. So she introduced us to New Orleans, where I could speak for myself. But I thought about them in college in one of my classes where I can't remember what subject or what we were discussing. And I know my professor was talking about different populations you can work with and some of the things that people go through, like what is a crisis or what is some situations that people can go to therapy for. And an example she gave was natural disasters. And I'm like, wow, I never even thought about that, where people who suffer from hurricane loss when they're losing their homes, and she said sometimes they're not getting their pictures or anything back, collective items or traditional things, important things, because their house flooded. And I thought about the New Orleans people or people around the world. Most important, I thought about New Orleans because I never forget Hurricane Katrina in 2005, because the hurricanes always hit around my birthday, which is August the 28th. I just celebrated a birthday. So I thought about them because most of those people had to relocate. So, I just tried to do my New Orleans accent. I need to stop. So I'm going to get into some of the things that the different Katrina Babies discussed in the movie, in the documentary. If you haven't watched the documentary, please check it out. It'll make you have sympathy for others and show people a little grace. And when I thought about Katrina, I also thought about people that come in from different countries. I remember just growing up, people were mean to the Haitian children because of the way they dress or the language that they speak. And I thought about how can we prevent this at home? People leave everything up to the authorities and teachers and counselors and everyone in the school. But it also, most importantly, start at home. Teaching your children to have sympathy and empathy for others and not judge them based on what they wear. You are not your clothes or what they have on, and just extending our hand to help someone. And I also wanted to help that population if I can go into schools and help them. That's an adjustment and a process for them as well. So I'm already moving, and then you have people picking on me. So I'm going to get into that too. And the things that I discussed, they're not in any particular order. Because I think I started documenting and writing things down like in the middle of the movie, as I always do. Like I just be watching something for me, and I be like, no, let me just shed light on this. So check it out, Katrina Babies. It's on HBO Max, directed by Edward Buckles. Thank you for capturing those moments of New Orleans. So one part of the movie where caught me, and I was like, wow, where he was talking to one of the Katrina Babies, and she was telling what happened. And in the middle of her describing, some of the things that happened, she began to cry. And he was like, that's okay. It's okay. You can take your time. And she said, this is my first time talking about it. You all, this happened way in 2005. this is her first time talking about it. And someone else on that movie said, no one ever asked me. So sometimes we really, really have to check in with people. And I think people just do it in passing of just crossing. We be like, hey, how you doing? You be like, okay. But deep down, you feeling something inside. And I know you don't want to share that with a stranger. But if someone you close to and a family member really asks you, how you doing? Just really let them know how you doing instead of the, okay, but I'm dying inside. And I get sometimes why people are leery, to share with others about what they're going through. So they talked about when they was relocated. They relocated to Houston. Some of them relocated to Mississippi. And they said that they were called refugees or evacuee. And the people will fight them at school. Now, these people are already going through other things, just lost family members, lost their house, their homes, apartments they was living in, separated from family. And now they have to go to school to fight. And then also they talked about fighting about territory, which still goes on today as it relates to gang violence and crimes. You all fighting over things that you don't even own, losing lives, or you going to jail. And the director Edward shed light on that too. It's either jail or dead. Nothing good come out of that. So if you're not that person that into gang violence, talk about it to the youth, your family members. If you're listening to this podcast, if you have a son, if you have a daughter, you could tell her what that comes with dating that type of man. And you could tell your son what comes with associating themselves with people that's in gangs. It never, ever ends well. It never ends well. Someone in the movie said that it smelled like death. So not only is the people that relocated experiencing trauma or anxiety, the people that's also in the city, because they said New Orleans is still not the same today. So they were seeing dogs floating. Think about it. Bodies floating. And the smell of death. Because of Hurricane Katrina, when you watch the movie, you see the helicopters flying around, getting some of the people off the roof, and the kids was in there, and then it just tugged at my heart. That even in that, they didn't show any fear. They were just happy they were being rescued. People weren't getting their meds that they need. But one lady on the phone, she was like, "We stuck in the attic. The water is coming up. If somebody don't get us, we can die here." Please watch it. It's so sad. My heart goes out to all the Katrina babies and the people that lost their lives in this disaster. But when you watch it, some people, I didn't realize how bad it was until I got older. And even before Katrina Babies, I told you I love New Orleans. So I was on YouTube. I'm a documentary person. So I was on YouTube watching different documentaries of it. So I saw pictures of how the houses was flooded. People on top of the roof to avoid. Had I been there, I probably would have lost my life because I don't know how to swim. That's just one of the most saddest things ever. So yeah, the lady was in the attic. They calling for help. Some of the people in the movie said that the helicopters were flying right past them. You know how hurtful that has to be? And I can't think of the particular name, but someone in the movie said that they felt like they sent them back to school too fast, which is true because that's a big adjustment. So there's another thing that you can go to therapy for, adjustment. You don't always have to be in a crisis to go to therapy. Relocating to another city, another school, moving with another family member, anything that's out of your norm sometimes can cause stress or you feeling overwhelmed. So he felt that they went back to school too fast. And a little girl in a documentary said that she want to go to school to be a counselor. And I wish I really remembered your name so I can shout you out. I did, matter of fact. Chantrell. I wrote you down because that was the intricate part for me, because you said you want to go back to school to be a counselor. And she said she from the Fisher Projects in New Orleans. And I hear that in songs. Shout out to Reedy from New Orleans. She mentioned that in her songs, the Fisher Projects. And she said she want to go back to school, to be a counselor because of the things that she saw. And I wrote that down to you because I can resonate with you. I'm also a counselor and a therapist, Chantrell. So, young lady, I wish you nothing but success on your journey. And I hope that you become what you aspire to be. I didn't grow up in the Fisher Projects, but I grew up in Okeechobee Center Projects. And that was not the project wasn't a reason because we didn't see violence or crimes in our neighborhood. It was just uptown and Belgrade overall, up the streets. So what got me into really wanting to do therapy, because some of the things that we heard or saw on the news or was around just being at parties, gun violence and fights, that's not normal. And we were normalizing it because it go on so much. It's like, okay, you used to it now. And that's not normal. And I just want to go back and enlighten it and spread awareness, to the community through the podcast, not just in my community, but this podcast let me reach different platforms and different people. So, Chantrell, I wish you nothing but success, and you can attain it with perseverance, discipline, and structure. It's not going to be easy, but it is worth the reward at the end. So I pray that you become the counselor that you want to be. Gentrification. They talked about how people was moving into the communities. So when they're moving in, the black people are moving out. And he said that the culture don't feel the same. It felt like community. You knew your neighbors. It just don't feel the same. And it felt like that all over the world now, where black people was like a sense of community, helping each other. It was a village that raised a child. Now you can't say nothing to nobody's child. We lost that. And a particular person that Edward talked about was this boy named Jaquez. And Edward shared that him and another child was getting into it at the bus stop about something that was probably, he said, not even important or worth fighting for. And Jaquez was from the same neighborhood from him. And I thought that he was finna say, we from the same neighborhood, so Jaquez jumped in and helped me. He didn't say that. And at the time, they had to be teenagers. He said Jaquez diffused the situation. But to be honest, nobody really be wanting to fight. But it's that, okay, these people are looking. I just hope or wish somebody break it up. That's what it is 9 times out of 10. So shout out to Jaquez, but also rest in peace to Jaquez, because he died at the age of 23 to gun violence in the movie. And he died in a car. And the narrator discussed of how he feared that, if it happened to him, it can happen to me. And it's a lot of people living with that anxiety and that fear about the things that they seen in their community, as well as the victims of Hurricane Katrina, when some of them saw different people dead or dying, and they feared that I can be next, or this could be me. I just wanted to say this was a great documentary. And I think the lady name was Carol. And she said that after the hurricane, people were saying we need to fix the children. And she was like, I don't think we need to fix the children. And I loved her perspective of it. She said what these children went through, it caused havoc on their mental health. And it's hard to learn. I'm going to repeat this because I love that part. She said it is hard to learn when you're in fight or flight mode, right? People going through things at home in their community that their vision is blurred. You want them to focus on this, but I'm going back home to domestic violence. I'm going back home to rape, abuse, or no food in the refrigerator. I'm going back home to a shelter. You don't know some of these kids' reality. So they saying fixing the kids. We have to fix what's going on in this world because they're in fight or flight mode. And she said that kids want to know that they feel safe, and that now they're not safe in their community. They're not even safe at school. You're not, because you have people picking on you. You're seeing in the news with the school invasions, communities where the crime rate is high. In order for me to be at a mode where I feel safe so I can focus. But people are also in flight or fight mode, or they're thinking about what they're going back to. So I just want to say Katrina Babies was a great documentary. I commend Edward Buckles for even going to do the interview and shedding light on the Katrina Babies and letting them speak from their perspective. I am going to watch this documentary again because I was stopping and pausing to write things down so I can bring awareness to this movie and talking about it. Maybe it can shift some of you all perspective of how you treat yourself and others. Be a little more kind to yourself and others as well. But yeah, share this episode. Like I said, it's going to be located also on YouTube as well, because I know most people don't have Apple Podcasts. A lot of people be on YouTube, so I'm just trying to put it on platforms where everyone have access to it. Again, check out Katrina Babies on HBO Max, and thank you, Edward Buckles, for shedding light on that documentary.